Hitler.
No, because the genocide of anyone is not okay. The genocide of anyone, even Palestinians, the genocide of innocent children in Palestine is not okay.
I'm glad you say it's a genocide.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. The reason why Jews have been run out of 109 countries throughout history is because every time they get into a country, they try and take it over. In the Talmud, they talk about sexual intercourse with the little girl is permitted if she is under 3 years of age. You can rape a non-Jew woman and it is legal.
Welcome back everyone. Charlie recently got himself into quite a pickle when he was confronted by another Christian. Anyway, let's get straight into it.
In the Talmud, they talk about sexual intercourse with the little girl is permitted if she is under 3 years of age. You can rape a non-Jew woman and it is legal. And as a Christian, I mean, you look at our government, it's been infiltrated by the Jews. The founders of pornography are Jewish. The founders of transgender, the transgender movement and the LGBT community are Jewish. That's exactly what was going on in Germany. I'm not excusing what Hitler did, but there's more to it. And so as a Christian, what is your biblical perspective to supporting a group of people that are promoting satanic acts and are excusing satanic behavior?
There's a lot there. First, tell me what the Talmud is.
So the Talmud, I believe, is like a set of rules that it's kind of like our 10 Commandments, but on a bigger sense.
No, it's not that. So the
Okay.
Talmud would be to the Federalist Papers to the Constitution. So do you know what the Torah is?
Yeah, the Torah is like the Old Testament, like what
Close.
they
Yeah,
consider
Genesis,
the
Exodus,
Bible.
Leviticus,
Yeah,
Numbers,
it's
Deuteronomy.
their version of the Bible.
Yeah. Well, that Tanakh is their version. It's actually our version. We have an indecipherable Old Testament. Talmud is interpretation of the Torah and of the Tanakh. It is basically rabbis arguing back and forth. I don't know about those specific verses. People that are in Orthodox Judaism say that that is not true. I don't know. They'll have to refute and respond to that. I'm not a master of the Talmud. I do know the Torah very, very well. And I can tell you right now, nowhere in the Torah does it say anything that you just described or articulated.
Guys, I'm not a Jewish scholar, as you can clearly tell, but I have done a little research into this. It's black and white. It's there. Charlie claims it's a bunch of rabbis arguing back and forth. That's not the case. I visited a website called Jewish Historical Institute, where it says, and I quote, "The Talmud is the staple of Jewish religion after the destruction of the Second Temple and the primary source of halakha, religious law. This is law. I promise you, I guarantee you, if anything like this was written anywhere in the Quran or Hadith, we would always be reminded of this."
So you asked the question, why should we care about Jews? And I will address the other specific points. We are called to bless the Jews as Christians. In fact, you are a Christian, right?
I am, but
what religion was Jesus?
He was Hebrew. He was not the modern.
He was Jewish.
He was not Jewish. He was Hebrew.
Well,
Jews,
hold on. He was from Judea, wasn't he?
Correct, but Jews didn't exist at that time.
Well, hold on.
The modern Jews are not the true chosen people of Yah. They created their own country in the 1940s. They established, this is their doctrine, the Yebahamath 11b. That the little girl is permitted if she is 3 years of age. Charlie, as a man of Yah,
again,
how can you justify and defend a group of people?
I don't justify that. That's disgusting.
But you're supporting them.
No, time out. I will say, though, that I've never met a single Jew that believes that or understands it. I encourage you to find a rabbi and confront him with that.
They have videos all over the internet.
No, yeah, it's not nothing false is ever on the internet, right? But I encourage you.
It's live interviews.
No, I encourage you to go to a rabbi and ask him that very specific question.
Charlie says, and I quote, "I've never met a single guy who believes that." Common sense, dude. Which sane person is going to openly say, "Yeah, I believe in the rape of babies under 3. It's crazy, man. Let's continue.
But let me ask you, when it says very clearly, when Paul says that we should bless the keepers of the law, which is the Hebrews, do you believe that?
I do.
Okay, so we should.
The modern day Jews are not the original Hebrews.
So help me understand that. So do you mean the Ashkenazi Jews, or do you mean the Sephardic Jews? Because there are two. Do you know the difference between an Ashkenazi and a Sephardic Jew?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so that's very important. So what you're probably talking about is the Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenazi Jews are Eastern Europeans that came into the region in the 1940s.
Modern
day
Israel.
Jewish.
They founded Israel. Correct?
However, but tell me what a Sephardic Jew is. A Sephardic Jew are people that never left the region. They tend to be Persian. They tend to be somewhat...
I'm Persian, half Persian. I'm Irish and Persian.
Fair enough. But so Sephardic Jews are actually biologically indistinguishable than the original people of Israel 4,000 years ago. So not exactly sure where we're driving that.
Because that's the modern day Israel government. That's who Trump works with.
Well, no, it's actually both. It's both Ashkenazi and Sephardic.
It's not.
Well, no, again, if you've ever been to Israel, you could tell the difference in an Ashkenazi and a Sephardic immediately. The Sephardics are like screaming about like going to, go to war, and the Ashkenazis are, having a much more liberal Orthodox Shabbat service. But let me ask you a question. You say that the Jews run our government. Fair enough. You said that?
Yes.
If that's true, why is it we send so much money to Hamas in Iran?
Because Israel created Hamas.
Okay, wait, help me understand this. So the Jews run our government, is
Correct.
what you say.
Correct.
And
Trump met with the Sanhedrin a few years ago, and they asked him to uphold the Noahide laws, which talk about killing Christians.
Well, so the
It's not a
Noahide
secret.
laws are actually, we live under the Noahic covenant, and nowhere does it say it should kill Christians. What are you talking about?
The Noahide laws are the upholding of the. So Trump works for the Jews.
Tell me what the Noahide laws are.
The Noahide laws is a group of laws that the Jews live by that specifically say that they have guillotines. It talks about the beheading of the. It starts with the G. I forget the exact word they used to describe what they would say Gentiles. They have a word noyim or something
Goy,
like Goy,
which means nation
Correct.
in Israel. Do
Correct.
you know that?
Okay.
So anyone who is not a Jew is called a Goy. Goy
And
literally means,
they all deserve to what they say.
So let me just make sure I understand. So Jesus Christ, who himself was a Hebraic, Torah observant, Shabbat observant Jew, or whatever you want to call it, right? Because Jew just means you're from Judea. That's all it means, okay? You know that, right?
No.
That's where it comes from. Tribe of Judah, then formed Judea. Jew comes from Judea. Jesus Christ himself honored the law. Does that mean anything to you?
It does. So if we're going to say that Jesus honored the law, how is justifying
And the keepers of the law
of a child under 3 years old?
That's not the Talmud is not the law.
That is what they preach in Israel. They preach in their schools. They talk about it openly.
I encourage you to find me a singular instance of somebody in Israel talking about the legitimate of 3-year-olds. That doesn't exist.
Well, from my research, every Jewish school, wherever that may be, more so in Israel, teach the Talmud. Rabbi Aiden Steinsaltz advocates for the Talmud to be a core part of religious education. So yes, it is clearly taught and discussed in Jewish schools. There's no excuse for this. There can't be. It's scripture. Whether it's discussed or not, it forms part of the belief.
If there's anti-Semitism, it's the Jews. If there's no anti-Semitism, it's the Jews. We send money to Hamas, it's the Jews. We send money to Israel, it's the Jews. So at some point you have to tell me, like, they basically control everything, whether it hurts them or it helps them. Is that correct?
Israel wants the New World Order. They're the synagogue of Satan. It says so in Revelation, Charlie.
You think
The synagogue
Israel
of Satan.
is the synagogue
The
of
synagogue
Satan?
of Satan.
Okay, actually, it doesn't say that.
In the Bible, it says that there will be a group of people who call themselves the chosen people of Yah, but they are the synagogue of Satan. Charlie, we live in
Right.
the end times. Trump works for the...
I can't agree with that. So let me ask you, since you believe we live in the end times, what do you think? Do you think the modern creation of Israel is fulfillment of biblical prophecy?
It is not.
Okay, then we disagree. Then what do you think it is?
It is a satanic agenda to push a new world order. That's why they were fought in the 1940s. World War II was fought not over what everyone thought it was fought of. Every war is fought by, it is funded by the rich, the Rockefellers, all the rich, the Rothschilds.
Okay, so yeah, let me ask you a question. Then.
They funded all those wars.
Was Hitler bad?
I think Hitler was bad, yes. Hitler was bad, yes. But
did the Holocaust happen?
The Holocaust did happen.
How many people died?
Not 6 million.
How many?
It was not 6 million.
How many?
I don't have an exact number, Charlie. I don't have an exact number. It wasn't 6 million.
Okay, but you said it's not 6 million. You must have an alternative. How do you know it's not 6 million?
Because there wasn't even 6 million Jews in Germany.
Okay, well, I mean, you tell me. You're the expert. How many people died?
Charlie, what New World Order? It's in Scripture.
Well, again, I read the same scripture you do. You're heavily inferring and reading into Daniel and Ezekiel and
the Old
into
Testament
Revelation.
still applies.
Okay, yes, I do. The Old Testament does still apply. Yeah.
So yes, I'm inferring into the Old Testament.
Yes, again, you're inferring a lot into the Old Testament. Have the Jews ever done anything good?
No.
I'm no expert on this topic, but looking at the Holocaust Encyclopedia, it states pre-World War II, the Jews represented less than 1% of the population, approximately 500,000. Another source states total pre-World War II population of Jews in Europe was 9 million. So who knows? Anyway, much thanks to this Christian brother for bravely bringing up and discussing those references with Charlie. Clearly it made him uncomfortable. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. I'll see you on my next video. Peace out.